Hello everybody, welcome back to the Briarheart 02 YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Ark in Space, Tom Baker's second outing as the Doctor. So right off the bat, in comparison to Robot, the script here is really good. It's really compelling. We've got some nice body horror stuff going on, and a really nice claustrophobic setting. Basically, the Doctor and his crew land on this space station, which is sort of acting as a Noah's Ark for humanity in the far future. While the humans aboard the Ark are hibernating, an alien known as the Weirin comes aboard the Ark and it lays its eggs, and the eggs hatch and begin to feed on the humans. At this point, the Doctor and his crew arrive and start investigating the space station, which is said by the script to be really run down and really dark and dingy, but we'll get back to that in a minute. And from there, this really gruesome story, sort of akin to Alien, sort of takes shape and plays out, and we're forced to watch as the Doctor and his friends have to survive against the threat of the Weirin swarm. And like I said, there's some really nice elements here. This is sort of the very first time we see that Hinchcliffian body horror thing going on. To reproduce, a Weirin has to infect a host, and the larva from inside the host slowly eats its way out and takes over the host. It's a really gruesome concept, and like I said, sort of akin to Alien. So we have that very nice little bit of horror going on, and it really does make this seal the story. The claustrophobic setting really works well too. There's one point where Sarah has to climb through vents, and it's done much better in the novel, but it still gives us this really nice enclosed atmosphere. Even though this space station is supposed to be huge, it's really atmospheric, and it works pretty well on paper. The only issue with this story is the constraints of the directing, a couple of the actors in it, and the lighting of the set, which I guess is part of the directing. So the main side character we're stuck with for this story, her name is Vyra, and she's the wife of the captain of the space station. And she's written as sort of a cold, calculating character because she's a scientist and she's from a future where selective breeding is an actual thing and it's just accepted. But the actress takes cold and calculating and instead portrays it as completely wooden. And it just really falls flat. And for me, Vyra is the most annoying side character in this season just because of that fact. Like, she's written really well, but the way it's executed in her performance is really fucking terrible. However, in contrast to Vyra's really shit performance, everybody else here does a really nice job. Tom Baker feels more like the Doctor in this one. He feels more comfortable. He feels way more settled into the role than he did back in Robot. He's sort of taken the reins, as he should. Ian Marter and Liz Sladen are brilliant as always, and the other two side characters who, I can't remember their names, but they're less focused on than Vyra, but they are played by really charismatic actors, and you really do feel for them throughout the story. And then there's the guy playing Noah, who I want to make a special mention. Now, the character of Noah, it's not his actual name, but it's a nickname given to him by Vyra, and it's the only one I can remember, so we'll go with Noah. Noah becomes the lead Weirin at the end of the story. Sorry, spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it. And the actor playing Noah is just fucking great. Like, he is made to play a very creepy, over-the-top villain. Which he does. He does it really well. He just nails this performance, and it really works. Yeah, there's a scene at the end of the story where he's completed his transformation into the Weirin, and it just sends chills up my spine, despite the shitty lighting and the shit set, and arguably the shit costume, which I'll get to in a second, but even through all of that, it just it's just really good, and that is a testament to a type of actor you don't really see on TV or anywhere else like that anymore, where they're just really willing to go full ham. I'm gonna call it. They're willing to go full ham and completely stick by that decision, and I don't know, something's just really great about that. However, where the story falls flat most is in the production value. My issue is I judge this story mostly on the script rather than how it was executed by the makeup artists, the visual effects designers, the set designers, and the director. We'll start off with the lighting because that's the most important thing. In the novel and in the script, the space station is written as rundown, dark, and dingy. And that is the exact opposite of what you get on screen. On screen, it's really overlit, it has bright white walls, and it doesn't really sell the idea of a dark, dingy space station that's been run down for a very long time. The way it's written in the script is also where a lot of the atmosphere comes from. The atmosphere doesn't really come from the set itself, which it should. The set itself, being way too overlit, does lead to a few other problems. The Weirin aren't as scary as they could be because the set is overlit. The costumes are all very obviously made out of plastic and rubber, and because it isn't dark enough, it all looks really as cheap as it is. Whereas if it had been done in a darker environment, the Weirin could have been really fucking scary, despite their little wiggly noodle arms. The Weirin are an example of a monster that conceptually and on paper are fucking terrifying. Like, imagine the actual wasps that lay their larvae inside of a host, and the host is just digested sort of from their own inside and becomes the larva. That's fucking terrifying, and the movie Alien does this right, but here it's not done right, and a lot of that has to do with the lighting. So, yeah, for me, this is a really big issue because people don't really take into account how big of an impact something as simple as lighting can have on a scene. But it has a really big impact on how a scene plays out. Like, as an example outside of Doctor Who, The Godfather Part 2. Michael Corleone, the main character in The Godfather, is balancing... He's still trying to balance his life as a mobster and his life as a normal family man. And throughout those first two movies, Michael Corleone, whenever he's on screen, is constantly shown to be half in shadow and half in light. And sometimes, when in like his big evil mobster moments, he dips full into the shadow, and when he's being a family man, he dips full into the light. And that pattern can be seen throughout those first two Godfather movies. So that is an example outside of Doctor Who of how lighting is really an important piece in telling the narrative of a story. But to make matters even worse with the arc in space, Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes even requested that this story be filmed pretty much in the dark. But the director and the BBC wouldn't budge on their decision to have it be filmed in an overlit set. And it just really brings the televised version of the story down for me, that the lighting is not what it's meant to be. It just overall clashes with what's on the page and what the actors are saying and what's going on to have this really brightly lit set. And I don't know. Is it nitpicky? Probably, but yeah, for me, it's an issue. But overall, that's the biggest complaint I have with the story. On paper, it still works. Most of the time, with the actors on screen, it still works. It's just that lighting lets it down a bit. But yeah, so like, check this one out. It's really good. I really enjoy it. It's one of my favorites. Like, the target novel of this story is fucking superb, and the story itself, the original one by Robert Holmes on TV, is still superb despite the shitty lighting. Like, it's a very nice piece of 70s television. And yeah, it hasn't exactly aged well with the lighting and the bubble wrap penis monsters, but if you can overlook that and just pay attention to the story, I think you'll find a new favorite among Tom Baker's era.